Okay, we're unmuted. This is a regular meeting of the Town of Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission. It's Wednesday, November 16th. It's 5:04 p.m. Present, we have Jen Miller, Anthony Vasilio, Laura Walker, Bill Belluzzi, Karen Winters, myself, Michael Fogliano. John, you on the line? Okay, absent so far, Amy Holzer and John Coughlin. So we can jump into the agenda. First item up is public comment. There's no one here in the meeting hall except for us. So I'll open the phone lines if anyone's there and would like to offer public comment.
No, thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll close public comment.
Anybody there?
Yes, we're still there.
Can you hear us?
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
I hit the wrong. I apologize. I hit the wrong button. So the way it works with minutes is I submit unapproved minutes because we don't meet frequently enough to meet the 2-week FOI deadline to submit minutes. So when we review our minutes, we'll just make notations in tonight's minutes to add any additions, deletions, or corrections to the prior minutes. So I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 21st, 2022 regular meeting with an addition to add a note under correspondence about the email received from the chairs of the Open Space Commission that included the site test results for the McCulloch family open space building envelopes.
What item was that?
5.
Item number 5. And there's also a typo in the last sentence, but that's not material.
Thank you.
You didn't see it? I was.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's the motion. I'll look for a second on that.
Second.
Bill? Any discussion?
That's good.
Okay. Go through this on that one. Okay, hearing none, then go to vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of September 21st, 2022 regular meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
I was absent.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, motion carries. I'm going to check for John again. John, have you been able to join us? Okay, not yet. Okay, general updates. So we're under 4.1. I just have a few things there. First, the mailer. Back when we were working on sending out a mailing. So for a variety of reasons, the first of which was the second lesson learned that when the state says a month without a date as a deadline, they mean the first and not the last day of the month. So we actually didn't have access to the grant. Not long after our meeting, a letter came in closing out the grant from the state. Nonetheless, Anthony has done some very useful work to identify a vendor and a medium for future mailings, which we now have in our pocket for any future community engagement we want to use that we want to use a postcard for. Also, thank you, Bill, who sent out some of the initial text on that. And between Bill and I, we put together. So that's the bad news. We didn't get a mailing out. The good news is that I also got a notice from Town Hall that submissions were open for the events, for the Old Lyme Events magazine that's coming out. So Bill and I converted his text into the the maximum required 300 words for the events article and submitted that. So that's been done.
Great.
So we got the essence of what Bill had
Well, Michael,
That goes to everybody.
you did the yeoman's of that. I will take some credit for getting it to 300 words. that was the fun thing.
There was a little tennis on that one to slice it down. And it's good. And I actually got extra mileage out of that because there was also our annual report was due for the commission, which we've done. So I just pretty much put the same thing in for our annual report. So we got some good mileage out of that. So that was some administrative stuff we needed to get done and a community engagement outreach that wound up being successful. So the 2 lessons learned there is now we have it was pretty reasonable, the vendor.
Oh, yeah.
That Mosaic that was identified, so we have them. They have the expertise and to do mailing lists and it sounded like a soup to nuts service they have, and it was very reasonable. And also that lesson learned that when the state says October 1st, not October 3rd, we got caught on that with the deadline for the affordable housing plan too, because it was June 2022. Legislation, we assumed June 30th. It was actually June 1st. So hopefully next time we'll remember that. Okay. ARPA grant. Got the contract for that. It is signed, sealed, delivered, and the grant is now to use.
What's it called? The what grant?
The ARPA. That was a community initiative grant for $150,000 to support planning, site work, construction for the affordable houses on the McCulloch building envelopes. So we have that. Other general update, just a note, town hall hiring. So there's currently still not an admin or an executive assistant to replace Michelle Noren. I saw in the minutes of the Board of Selectmen that they're starting a search committee for some open positions. So hopefully that will get filled. In the meantime, it's affecting our ability to update websites, post recordings, do some of the processing for the grants and the memberships, the association memberships. But we'll nothing critical at this point, but just things are.
So they don't have somebody even temporarily.
Yeah, Jen Datum is doing a great job trying to keep the fires burning, but she's got a day job too. So.
Is it Michelle Hayes also?
Yeah, Michelle Hayes has taken up some of the slack, but Michelle Noren did a lot.
Efficiently too. She was like nothing muffled her. She was.
Yep.
Yeah, she was awesome.
So that's what I had for general updates. Anything else?
Is there anything in particular we need to update on the websites, or is that?
Not yet, and when we do, it's all, at this point it's fairly generic. There's no major corrections, but as we get into our community outreach, we're going to want to tie it back to the web and potentially post documents there. So, but I don't think we're being impaired by it at this point. It's just something to be aware of.
But can you make submissions when they're just filing and then wait to input it, or do you have to go remember what happened a month or 2 months ago and then submit? Can you submit documents all along or requests and they're keyed up, ready to go?
Yeah, what we're mostly slowed down from doing is making actually updates to the pages themselves.
No, I get that.
So editing those.
Are you able to submit documents?
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
and they just hold them in a.
I would actually queue it with me until the new person gets in there, and then.
Got it. Okay.
Good evening, or good afternoon.
Good evening. Looks like it.
It's dark here.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Very good. We're just going through item 4.1. General updates, and we were just wrapping that up and opening up for any discussion or additional updates that we should be aware of. Okay, hearing none there. The McCulloch Family Open Space Affordable Housing Option. So since our last meeting, Jen and I joined Tim Griswold in meetings with the new executive directors for both Habitat for Humanity, Sarah Loeffler, and the Hope Partnership, Carla Lindquist. And they were very productive meetings. I'll start with the Hope Partnership one first. That was the second meeting. So the first one with Habitat for Humanity was on November 3rd, and then with the Hope Partnership on Veterans Day, November 11th, we met with the exec directors for about an hour each. They were both very enlightening and productive conversations. I'll start with the Hope Partnership one. They have a new exec director. They are very interested in focusing on mostly small to mid-scale multifamily rentals at this point, as you can see, and with an eye towards adaptive reuse. So if you look at what happened with the loft at Spencer's Corners, that's an example, and they also have a project going in Madison now that, again, is small to mid-scale rentals that work within an existing footprint for water and sewer, so without requiring major infrastructure. And they're very interested in working with us. I think there's an opportunity to bring them in as we contemplate the Shoreline Gateway and maybe Halls Road. They were less interested in doing the owner-occupied single-family development.
Oh, okay.
But they are very interested in working with us long-term, helping us work through implementing our affordable housing plan. Carla has a tremendous amount of energy.
What's her name?
Carla Lindquist.
Carla Lindquist.
Just started in August at Hope Partnership. Replaced Lauren Ash, who had been, that position had been vacant for quite a while, well over a year, I think.
Yeah.
So that went very well, and now we have an open channel with them.
Yeah. And their kind of scale, what I got from them is like the one in Madison, I believe, was like 31 apartments. They flipped the numbers, basically. Tony, they go like 70% affordable, percent market versus the other way around.
They started 100
they started
100 and
back
back down to the point where they can get the financing they need.
Oh, wow.
They try to get the numbers. That's cool.
Yeah.
So in Madison, I think it's 24 affordable, 7 market.
Yep.
Wow.
Great.
And Spencer's Corners was 11 units.
It was 100%.
100% affordable, and that actually rescued a trust business condominium complex there, and very well regarded by the town, very successful.
Was there any discussion about the current properties at the end of Flat Rock and the one on Boggy Hole, where there was the tax implication and all of that?
Yeah, mostly got them connected with Tim so that they'll take that up, and there was a general recognition that needed to be resolved. So at least there's a new exec director, the dots are connected. So yeah, I think it wasn't resolved there and wasn't really on
Is it their plan to maintain ownership of those, or are they hoping to pass it back to the town? Do you know?
I don't know exactly what the plan is, but that'll be the discussion going forward. The first priority is to get that pending tax thing, but I think it's resolved looking forward, but there's still an out year that just needs to be sorted out, and at least we have the open channels of communication to sort it out now. We were also, I should note, we were joined at the meeting with the Hope Partnership. It was Carla. It was also Tony Lyons was there, as was our old friend Tom Mortaliva, who's on board. Tom was a member of the original Affordable Housing Commission committee before it was
committee, yeah, and he was also on the affordable housing.
He was originally he was with you on
He was with me.
the original old line affordable housing.
20 years ago.
Many years
ago.
Yeah.
And has been on the board for a while and just rejoined.
So they were both there.
Very knowledgeable.
So that was the Hope Partnership. By the way, having these two meetings also, there's actually a specific item in our action plan for the Affordable Housing Plan to open channels with both of those organizations, which we can actually check off on.
And actually, just to give you a quick update, Sarah and Carla are meeting on Monday morning for the first time. So they're,
so there's some
both EDs
extended
are gonna meet
networking going on.
Sarah is for
Habitat Executive Director.
What's her last name?
Luffler, Lufler. Also new to her role.
So, the meeting with Habitat, that was the first meeting we took on the 3rd. And we'll cut to the chase a little bit, and I'll look to Jenna back to Baxter. Very interested in the McCulloch properties.
Oh.
They're very interested. Okay. I think the bottom line is they have the bandwidth, they have the expertise, they have the resources to do it. Their model not only allows for community engagement, it depends on it. So part of our role, if that was to go forward, would be to get the community involved in that sort of barn raising type of project that they run. So there's a variety of models that sometimes we didn't get into details. They have models where they own the property and sell the improvements. They have models where they sell the property. The properties the affordable properties that they develop are protected. So they are protected as affordable through a right of first refusal. So apparently check me if I get these numbers wrong, but over the last 35 years, we just did their 100th project, and over 90 of them are still in their portfolio and being managed by them. And as they turn over as affordable.
Yeah. Is it deed restricted?
Not deed restricted, but through first refusal. So.
And what happens if it's first refusal is
So
not accepted?
in some cases, they have a CHFA or USDA mortgage, but in other cases where we hold when Habitat holds the first mortgage, we always on 100% of the homes have the right of first refusal, so they have to sell it back to us if they're going to sell it.
And then it's rolled.
And then we put it in our
it's
portfolio.
Part of the original purchase.
Part of the original purchase. Yep.
They have a clause in there that says that Habitat
Gets the first refusal.
Yep.
And the downside of that is it won't necessarily check a box with the state. The upside is there's no expiration on this. It's in perpetuity. So there's no 30-year timeout on it, which is good. But the bottom line is it's protected, which is clearly one of our objectives, that it wouldn't be flipped at some point.
Because if it is deed restricted, you get points against the affordability appeals list, which makes us look good at the state level.
Yeah, I think that in the end, anything that Habitat holds the mortgage on will we'll make that list. But I'll check with Sarah.
She said it was 95 or 97.
97 out of 100.
97.
And more now.
So 97% of the properties they've done over the past 35 years are still in the portfolio.
Yeah.
So it would count? When I say count.
No, it
830G.
wouldn't show up on the...
For 830G, it does.
But it's protected.
I mean, it's clearly creating affordable housing.
Unless, Michael, if they have a CHFA or USDA mortgage...
Then it will.
Then it will.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if Liberty Bank does the mortgage, then...
Right, okay.
Thanks for that.
And I think, I think there was clear, stark difference between the two organizations, which actually makes a good fit for us. So that, they're, obviously Habitat is home ownership. They want the families to own the home and build equity and things like that in the home, and pride of ownership, security, et cetera, whereas Hope is now moving towards more of a strategy where they just want people in affordable units, and as they phase out of them, each year they'll have to renew their rental application for those places, and as they phase out of them, they move out. But, so it's a little bit of a different model. But I think it fits well together for the space that we have in Old Lyme. And
both of those are in our strategy.
Yeah, we have both of those things in our plan.
And small to mid-scale
hopefully
multifamily that would work within an existing land and water footprint. So
I think that's a good explanation. I didn't know how Habitat worked and Hope works. That's nice.
It was an education for me too, and happy to get it. It was nice to hear. So,
and we talked about the tax abatement and things like that, which will still be something. The road up to those properties on McCulloch, that will still have to be solved.
There's details.
And there was one more thing, I forgot what it was, but
I put a couple of notes. So
taxes, the
still
road.
has to be.
Well, the land tax, the property tax. Oh, the ARPA fund.
Yeah, I've got notes. So we're going to continue the discussions with Habitat on making that real. They're prepared to move on a pretty tight timeline on it. We still need to get a legal opinion on what the specific requirements are to exercise that option. And Tim is going to work with the original attorney that worked on writing the public transaction and consult the deeds there. So
And one of the things
That's
that
not something
Sarah...
we don't think is going to be a problem, we just need to know what it is.
And Sarah needs a date, yeah. And one of the things that they've emphasized, both of them, that the more the community gets engaged with the whole process and, you know, all the churches and the faith communities, et cetera, the more that we can get them involved, the faster and the cheaper and the better it will be. So I think that part of our communication, you know, plan has to kind of center around getting the community involved in whatever properties it is, whether it's apartments or houses or whatever.
In the case of the...
Well, it's not going to be apartments.
Yeah.
Which one?
It's not going to be, McCulloch's not going to be apartments, it's going to be 2 single families.
No, we're talking about halls and shoreline overlay.
Okay, gotcha. All right. You've jumped upon.
Yeah.
On the houses, it's not clear who would own them then?
Well, they would,
That they want?
Habitat would own them, and the families that are selected would then be the owners of the house.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I just wanted
at
to
least
make
the
that
structures, and if I heard
The way we're
correctly,
structuring.
they have properties where the land is also owned by the structure owners, and they have some models where they retain the land and lease it back for 99 years for some nominal charge. And
$20.
And they sell only the structures.
What's the criteria for habitat for the residents? Do we get to have a criteria for Old Lyme Connection?
Yes, and so there's 2 parts to that. So one is at the base level, they shoot for 30 to 60% AMI, but we'll go above that if they need to for just to make the numbers work. And because of fair housing laws, we've talked about this. Because of fair housing laws, you can't exclude anyone from applying.
No, of course not.
But you can wait. You can add
And give
points.
points. Yeah.
Okay, but when we talk about points, that makes me prickly, because when the HOPE project came through, they were giving more points to someone in a depressed area than they were to our fire department. So that's problematic for...
I wouldn't go like fire department, schoolhouse, et cetera, but I mean, I think they're open to, as I said, like she wanted to make it very clear, Sarah wanted to make it very clear that they can't discriminate against anybody that's applying for it. So
No, well, why would you? But the thing is, you'd weight it where it's, if you work in Old Lyme, you're from Old Lyme High School, graduate high school, stuff like that, they're all going to accumulate points.
So this isn't Habitat, but I know that
president, yeah.
Hope has that.
The HOPE project was skewed higher for outside of our area than they were for our own residents.
Gotcha.
The whole project in Essex, though, Spencer's Corners, is weighted for Essex.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's common in the federal housing world, too. You can have rating and ranking preferences, they call them.
Yeah.
And if you live, work, or go to school in the community, you get a point or 2. Sometimes that's all you need. And that's how they deal with it.
As long as it's inclusionary and not exclusionary.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Who determines that formula?
The building committee or whoever.
Yeah.
No, it'd be Habitat.
It would be Habitat, but we would have...
Habitat.
So,
Yeah,
let me go
they don't have Habitat doesn't have a building committee?
We have a construction team.
Oh, construction team, yeah, exactly.
Great
Is
job.
there anything to prevent that distasteful event that happened with the Neck Road project? Is there any way that we can say, look, this is a deal breaker for us?
Yeah, I think we could, and in conversations with Tim, the concept of having a steering committee, it wouldn't be a building committee per se where you're managing vendors and managing budgets and stuff, but being an interface liaison with Habitat would
I keep
would be
going
a
back
better
to the
function.
public perception, and if it ends up to be the way that was, I can't see it being as
So
agreeable.
that's clearly on the table. It was articulated at the meeting we're at, and as the discussions go through,
Yeah.
it'll go away.
I have a timing question and then a follow-up. In a timing sense, is Habitat selected, or is there still a process to go through to formalize who's going to be the developer?
It has not been closed yet,
Okay.
but
When it's closed, it'd be good to have a sample submitted of previous documents where they, have preferences, and we can look at that later on down the line. And the other thing I would suggest, you might want to move that other microphone down so you get to the table.
So just perfect.
Yeah, I don't like. I'll make sure that.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's a good idea. I can send, we have a building selection committee, just as Habitat. I'm no longer on the board, by the way, but just so they have a building selection committee, and then, it's a sort of a standard criteria. They hold public meetings to educate people on what the process is, because they also mandate 400 hours of sweat equity by the potential homeowner. They mandate a few credit checks, financial security, as far as different things like that go. So they give them financial education, for instance, if they need to improve their credit score or something like that. So it's really more of a hands-on thing for helping the family, but then also getting the community engaged so that people get to know them as like real people and not just those people, those kind of things. So I think that's one of the benefits in this particular special case, because it's two houses, it's two places, it's right there. It's more of a short-term deliverable versus we're building 224 apartments, which 30% are affordable.
But it's a good brand to bring into the community, help educate the community. Because Habitat has an excellent reputation.
It's part of their process, so it's not an add-on for us. It's woven into their process. They depend on it, not just allow it.
Yeah, I like that.
So the selection of potential, there's the process, potential homeowners is prior to actually building?
Yes, it's concurrent.
Sounds like or
concurrent,
right? Because if people would get to meet.
Yeah, it's concurrent. So usually we do
sweat equity part.
Yeah, usually we do the foundation and the things that they won't allow other people to join on, safety issues and whatever. But so usually they'll do the foundation, the site work, all that. And by that time, we hope to have selected a family that would move in there and then meet all the criteria and start to get them up to speed on everything. So once the walls start going up and, like I said, like once the site work, then they're in there doing, painting or... We generally don't use them for framing and things like that, but certainly my son, when he was 16, framed out a bathtub, for instance. So that's, things like that you could do interior work that doesn't depend on the structure of the actual house.
Just a quick question. So we have this $150,000, I'll call it a pre-development grant. I don't know what the fancy name is, but that's what we would call it. And whoever the developer is that's selected, they submit these site development costs, and
So there's you skipped to my next bullet on the update. So that's prescient. Good. So one of the things we have to work out is, so the details need to be worked out on how we either apply or assign the grant to the developer. There is a provision in the grant contract to assign it. So we're going to need some technical guidance from the ARPA folks on how to do that. It's generally understood that it's doable. We just need to know how it would actually be implemented in this particular case. So it's not unlike the contractual aspect of exercising the option. We just have to say, okay, this is what we want to do. What are the concrete steps we need to do? And no pun intended to.
So there's no, you submit a bill, it's authorized, and then
No.
reimbursed. You just to give total discretion. Here's $150,000. Do what you want with it.
Well, we're not sure.
Okay, you're not sure.
We're not sure, but there is a provision for assignment. So
we
it'll
think
be somewhere on that spectrum. We just don't know exactly
And
where.
the reason I ask that is because of this issue of the community view, where no one trusts anyone in Connecticut. Give them $100,000. We just had a $1 billion operation go down. A company just took about $15 million from the state of Connecticut to bring jobs in. They went out of business. Stanford, they had a Brantford. Schools. So schools. So what's happening is you got to be careful because the public increasingly doesn't trust government money to be totally controlled by other people. That's just my opinion, but you got to be careful of that or wait.
No, you're very correct.
And justly doesn't trust.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't trust me with money either. So
Back, I think, maybe to what Anthony alluded to before. Do they have to be selected from among, what's the process? In other words, I don't think there's that many builders out there at all interested in this kind of thing, or it's not profitable for them. But and
Like, do we have to put out
do we have to do anything, or do we just say we can go ahead, like Tim's instructions were let's meet with either Hope or let's have either Hope or Habitat. They're in that business, and we find out actually that Hope is in one part of the business maybe, and Habitat is in a different part of the business.
And in a nicely complementary fashion.
Correct. So,
Well,
is there a process to do that, or?
That's in the hands of the selectman's office at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd actually like to interject one thing. I had a conversation with him. I called him around, must have been right after Election Day. And we had maybe before, I forget when it was, but we had a conversation about moving forward on this in a different way, where we held it, and Tim was very supportive of that move too. Michael, did he bring that up when you met with him?
He mentioned that he had a conversation, but
yeah, it was a really great conversation, probably 45 minutes or so. It was nice.
As recently as 35 minutes ago, I saw Tim here, and he was very enthusiastic about pressing on with Habitat.
Perfect. Okay, that's great.
And you said we retain. You meant the town retaining the ownership, John?
Yeah, Tim doesn't care either. He had no preference either way. The town maintaining ownership probably would be a good thing, but they actually what I had investigated was sort of a way to fast track it via using a modular home, and all the numbers actually work out. So basically the home's built and then brought on site. It takes about 90 days to build in the factory, and then it's about 2 weeks to finish everything else. Obviously the foundation and the septic are done first, but it's a quick way to actually, and a very reasonable way to actually put a dwelling up. And it actually, between Karen actually made some calls to some banks, and we chatted about it, and it meets all the criteria that as far as making sure you're under the 30% for $75,000 or $85,000, but it was just another option.
All I can say is, John, based on the most recent conversations on the...
That's fine. No worries.
Okay.
And I think if the question is speed, so we can still talk to anybody about that too. So for instance, Habitat International's new models are both to be green and to be modular and to be a standard outfit. So they're going more mainstream as far as not customizing things. So if you have a family with 4 children, not to have 4 bedrooms, but that you always have sort of the same. There's a standard Habitat International house, if you will.
Which is very like what we described in our original proposal. And
it can go up in a modular fashion and a very green fashion. Now they're into the sustainability thing as well now. So it could go up in that way, or if you use a stick-built, property, which is what we're doing in the majority of the houses in the Norwich area, Lisbon, etc., are more stick-built properties that we're doing.
I mentioned cost of materials is coming down.
Yeah, with or without basements, depending on how the land is. And we had also talked about a garage or no garage and that kind of thing. So there's options, that you could do. But the standard Habitat International home would be a standard home, 3-bedroom, 1.5 or 2.5 bathrooms.
In terms of timeline, they were talking moving very quickly.
Yeah. So, the issue right now with Habitat for Eastern Connecticut is that we have so many properties, not any here in Old Lyme, but up in Norwich and Lisbon and actually now in Windham County as well. So there, we have a large portfolio of opportunities, and we have one construction team, and so there's basically, that's why she was encouraging us to start building momentum if we were to go in that direction, to start building momentum with the faith community and outreach to the community in general, just to get things rolling on our end sooner rather than later.
Which drove me to my last update bullet, which was, I think what we can do here, thank you, is to start with a community engagement plan. I think we know enough now to at least start to lay out the blocks of what we'll need to do, who the key stakeholders would be, we know what the habitat model is, but even absent of the specific habitat model, just how will we bring the community behind us? Anthony, you were going to say something. Please go ahead.
No, I was going to listen to your point. You might address it, that's all.
Just let me add, John, also, I think it would be great if, so they would both, Hope and Habitat, EDs would like to have a site tour, like to go out to the properties and visit them, so that Habitat can see the Hope properties, Hope can see the potential other properties that will be abutting their property, and those kinds of things. And so, I think John and others, if anybody wants to join, we can set that up for a convenient time for everybody.
We'll just need to know if there's a quorum, we need to post it as a public meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay.
Well, one question is, don't you think we should probably figure out if this counts for an affordable housing or towards 830G? I mean, are we not worried about 830G anymore? I mean, that's another question.
That's an interesting point, John. Can we
I mean, that's kind of a big bogey. I mean, yeah, Habitat does affordable housing, but if it's not going to help us towards our end game, I mean, I'm not sure. If it does, awesome. But, are we able to,
can we put that criteria?
There's two parts to this. So one is Habitat does provide for protecting the property as affordable into the future.
Correct. Yeah, I'm very well aware of Habitat.
The 830G
My brother-in-law runs in San Diego.
In our strategy, we talked about it, and that's a nice to have.
So we're not worried about that anymore.
Since we discussed it, we're aware of it, but what we
gonna
agreed was we're not going to make it, and
no, of course not.
It's not feasible, so it's not going to drive decisions if
we can certainly talk to Sarah.
We can ask, but I don't see it as any.
I think we should get as much bang for our money as what we can. We're using all of our ARPA funds. We're using our land. We should be able to check that off too. I don't see any reason why they would not support that.
If they're doing all the right stuff, I wouldn't see it as a showstopper.
Michael,
if they didn't.
You don't have to. You don't have to make it mandatory if that's what the decision is. But you could highly encourage that the development of the land complies with the state definition for affordable housing.
Exactly, because there's a lot of in the news lately that people are hearing about 830G, affordable housing, and we want to make sure that the perception, the view from the townspeople is that we're doing the correct thing.
Right, and correct me on this, Jen, but my understanding that it is Habitat's model, even if it doesn't go through exactly the same process, is actually more aggressive than 830G because they target the 30 to 60% AMI.
Yeah, that's correct. But just the legalities of it, I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
So I'll check with
I think on this point, though, and I agree with the general idea that we said emphatically we weren't going to let the mandate drive, what's right for our town. But I think if we have an opportunity to do anything to really push that, I think we should do it because we know we're never going to reach that, and I think people in the town know that we're never going to reach that. But I think after establishing the commission, doing everything, I think it would be in everybody's best interest to have something that does meet a
I couldn't agree more because we have 2 units, we have land that's been given. This is really low-hanging fruit, super easy to make affordable housing and get 2 check marks. And then other things in the future, throw caution in the wind. I'm fine with that. But this is an easy, low-hanging fruit, easy to be done.
I agree, and it's also, as we go through our community engagement, I think it's a good opportunity to teach about the concept of protecting affordable housing for the future when you develop it, and then the what, which is protecting, and then the how do you do that.
Right. But my guess, Michael, is that if you encourage it to comply with the state definition of affordable housing, because that's the criteria, and there's a number of criteria that are there, it's not going to be a hard lift to get there. There's so many different ways, the type of financing, any restrictions, and I think the state's pretty open to a lot of different, providing latitude that allows different kinds of development to meet the affordable housing definitions. I don't think Habitat or whoever the developer is will have problems doing it, as long as it's stated to encourage that, and that could be an important thing. There could be some financing to use.
I'll follow up.
Does Habitat have an opportunity for a senior to take advantage of such a place like that? So sort of exclude them from that sweat equity thing?
No, we don't do single person units. Yeah.
Not a person, but it could be a senior family is what I'm wondering.
Senior family, meaning family, a couple with children?
No, I'm talking about elderly.
No.
So,
yeah, I mean, not this Habitat. There are Habitat affiliates across the country that do
I have a hard time
renovation.
I'm having a hard time swallowing all of it. Just, I feel like
Not a senior moving into a 1,300.
But I mean, are we thinking of a
Too big.
for three
Family could live there.
I know.
I don't know. What I'm saying is that we have this land that was a gift, and so I'm trying to make sure that we do what's right with it, and the rightest thing may not be 30 or 60%. The rightest thing may not be to have a family there. Is what I'm saying. There's other criteria. There's other needs.
Although,
I'm not sure how
housing studies in our current state, which is
3 acres.
of the 83 units of affordable housing that we have in town, I think 62 are senior right now. And the housing study, what came out of that was our deepest need is in the 30 to 60% for households.
Which could be seniors, my
But
point.
for family.
Just to give you a hypothetical, a person who is elderly, normally at 62 years or older, near elderly, 50 to 62, who has legal custody of the children,
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
right? They could be an elderly person or near elderly person with custody of their grandchildren, and they would be able to go in there and use the house adequately, not be under or over housed. And you got the reverse thing. You have 3 bedrooms, you can't bring in enough people that normally need a 5 or 6 bedroom. So you have to be over or under housed, and that would qualify. But who knows who's going to apply?
You also need to be careful about what do you mean by senior housing, because there is defined senior housing, which is exclusively for persons over 55, and then there is affordable housing, which is open to anyone.
What are we looking for families, though? What about a couple?
To be over housed.
On the need of other, so say you have 5 families apply, 1 is a couple, and 4 are families with children, it will almost 100% go to the families with children because you're overhoused. If you have 1,300 square feet and you only putting 2 people in it, when you could put 4 people or 5 people in it. It's all about affordability and safety. It's not necessarily about.
Let me give you another hypothetical.
I know.
2 people.
You got to have the town support it, and you don't have mine yet.
No, but every time 2 people could move in there, 2 additional bedrooms, rent out the bedrooms for income. And if you don't think that's going to happen all the time. So there's all sorts of configurations when you start to open up Pandora's box of what goes on. People are very smart in the world. I find them to be very smart.
Here's where I'm at. We have this opportunity that's been delivered to us on a silver platter to build the first 2 units of affordable housing in town in
20 years.
20 years. So, and we're having a conversation about that. We can't let this go. These 2 units are hopefully not going to be the last ones for the next 20 years. So they can't be all things to all constituencies that would be interested or benefit from it. There's going to have to be some decisions made. But
No, but of course not, Michael. But also,
if I can finish, I think it's really early to start getting tripped up on that. What we need to do is moving forward and make sure that this opportunity doesn't lapse, because that would be just a huge failure. And at some point, we need to take yes for an answer. So we need to keep talking about this, and I think all of the points that have raised are legit,
Totally valid, yeah.
and there's going to be some decisions that are going to be made, but in 2 units on these 2 parcels, we are not going to fundamentally change the landscape of the need for affordable housing in town. We're going to put a small dent in it, but an extremely important one. And so it can't be workforce housing, senior housing, small family housing, rental, owner occupied. All the areas of need that we have are not going to be covered by these 2 units. So
That's a good point.
we can't let any single portion of the community that might not be able to benefit from this opportunity stop the show and prevent us from getting this one done and moving on to do more that they might benefit from.
My last question, is there, I don't understand who sets up that criteria. Let's say you get a developer in there. Is there a de facto set of criteria based on what they want to do with the property, or do we set it, or does the Board of Selectmen set it? Who actually sets up who can apply and what the screening is to get in there?
In the nonprofit world, if Habitat or Hope were to take the property and we made that legal agreement with them, it is completely 100% up to the Habitat or Hope
Correct,
to do that.
and that's where the concern
There's nothing
comes
to
in.
do with
I
the
understand.
town.
That's like
With our guidance, because there would be a transfer.
Correct.
So there
We could add in what Karen said. We could add in the points about
The
Old Lyme.
points about Old Lyme and preference for
PhD.
the
Chapter, sorry.
yeah,
So-
mortgage. But
So
I do think it's important.
Hang on one sec, John.
They have the expertise to do this.
Sure.
demonstrated.
Demonstrate it. And what I think, even though I do feel that if we can get the mortgage in there, get it as a official, would be a plus. I think moving ahead is really extremely important, and to do it with someone that knows what they're doing and has a proven track record.
We get
Get
John.
John in here, yeah.
John, you still there?
I am, yeah. So that being said, that's all great, but when we give them the land and the $150,000,
We're not giving them the land. They're going to purchase it for $100,000.
okay, exactly. So they get a really sweetheart deal. We could say, hey, this is the sort of what we're thinking about. We're going to help you with community engagement. We'll help you with this piece, that piece. It should be some sort of a partnership with them, I would imagine, because we're going to do what they're going to do other things with affordable housing in the future, I would guess. This is not a one-trick pony. And if it's a one-trick pony, we shouldn't have any part of it. In other words, we should be looking at a partnership to move down the road. And, yeah, they'll have the land, they'll do the stuff. But if we have certain criteria that we would like on, I'm sure it's negotiable. I'm sure it's very, I'm sure, hey, we were thinking that this is our view. And because Old Lyme's different than Norwich is different than New London, it's different than Essex, it's different than every town. So ourselves as a committee have come up with ideas that we're thinking of the people that we would like to provide, and through the need that, the data that we've gotten, but also, sort of talking to townspeople and things. So we should have some input on this, because it's otherwise, you know what I'm saying?
I agree, John. And to the other vector here, the force at work is going to be, what does Habitat do? What's their models? But my point before was, whatever we do on this, it's not going to be.
Oh no, it's not going to be everything for everybody.
Rental, small family, medium family.
No.
1, 2, 3
No.
bedroom. It's 2 units, so it's only going to. These 2 units are going to serve a very small
8 people.
segment.
It's going to serve 8 people. It's going to probably be owner-occupied, my guess. It's pretty simple, straightforward. It's similar to what was there before. And that's the question is Habitat fine with all that?
If you look at, again, I'll look at Jen, who's been on the board. Look at what Habitat does. They move small to medium-sized households into small houses.
Yeah.
And they help them build equity and help them join the community. And
I'm well aware what Habitat does. My brother-in-law actually ran one for years down in Hilton Head. So what I'm saying is, I know from my experience vicariously through him and for other things through Habitat that there are certain things that are negotiable. So if there are things that we want as a committee, we should put them out there.
But again, it's still, there's going to be choices to be made. It's going to have to intersect with their model.
Correct. Their business, exactly. And I don't think anything we're talking about really doesn't intersect with their model.
I think we're all agreeing. So the two things that we want to make sure that we include in any subsequent discussions with them are the preferences, as you called it, the preferences for Old Lyme families.
Sure.
And then the CHFA/USDA financing
Yeah,
of it.
the check mark. Yeah, exactly.
To meet the affordable housing
Right.
criteria of the state, of which
Right.
CHFA financing is one. But
Right.
you want to
Right.
give them flexibility because there's many ways of meeting that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the only way you can develop a two-housing development for this segment of the market, 30 to 60%, is you need some flexibility depending on the market conditions, the cost of development, what the site looks like, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be some
Right.
negotiation and give and take and understanding.
I'm
To
sure.
give some
Flip this in a more positive light.
I'm sure in
The needs of the
subsequent
community are
discussions.
so broad and so deep.
Right.
If we come up with 2 units of protected affordable housing and we put them on those 2 building envelopes, we can't lose. Someone is going to benefit from
We
it.
absolutely can lose, because if the townspeople do not support what we've done, we're doomed.
How did they
How
react
could they
to the
not?
3 hope
And that's on
houses?
us to teach
Do
because
they hate the hope houses? Like how did that?
Jen, you not at the middle school? I mean, those people were outraged about
The Hope Houses or the project we're talking about? No, the whole project.
3 hope houses that they
well,
have
2 in
right
Flat
now.
Rock and the one on Bowie Hall.
Nobody, I've never heard anybody object to those houses.
But you have to make a good faith effort by encouragement, by criteria. And the reason why is that the public's perception is cast in concrete. It knows affordable housing is the most undefined word used in Connecticut. No one knows what that really means. I don't even know what it means, affordable housing. But we do know people link it to the state's criteria for affordable housing to get on the list. They will link it, and if they think it's not meeting that box, they have to have a good reason why it didn't meet the box, and a good faith effort was made to do it. Doesn't mean that it's mandatory, but you have to show the public that every opportunity was taken to try to meet the criteria.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that exists in their thinking.
Yeah, I think
It's so
we
controversial.
just need more discussion
Yeah.
with actually Hope or Habitat or both
What they can.
on this, because there is not one property that Habitat owns that is not affordable housing.
And
So
protected.
I know.
and protected.
So we're moving away from developing it ourselves, and like John's modular.
Oh, that was the clear guidance we got from the meeting with First Selectman, the chair of the Board of Finance, and the chairs of Open Space. They did not support having the town own it. That was unambiguous guidance we got. So we sought the guidance from them. That was the guidance we got. The guidance was to talk to Hope and Habitat to see if they would be interested in doing it. And Hope is interested in working with us, not on that, less on that, and Habitat is very interested in working with us. And they have, it's been 100 homes in the last 35 years
102.
in southeastern Connecticut. So they are an established affordable housing developer, and 97 of those are still on their books as protected, so over 35 years. So I think I hope that will check the box for the guidance that we got to try and identify.
And it might be a simple question. They say, that criteria meets the state's definition. All right, done.
It's good.
All this conversation could be just one question, one answer, we're done.
Yeah, we
Because
don't have the
know
answer,
how they
yeah.
qualify for it under their development model, but they do it.
But I just want to set the expectation
Yeah.
that these 2 units are not going to be all things to all
That's correct.
segments of the community that could potentially benefit from it. It's only 2.
Yeah.
And there are very specific deed restrictions already on those envelopes
Yeah, unfortunately for
that restrict it to a single family home, and there are conservation easements on it, so there can only be one single family dwelling on each of those envelopes. So we're working
With
in
the
box.
boundaries
The
that we-
great news, and I keep coming back to this, the great news is it's a huge opportunity to deliver on 2 units of housing that are clearly areas of deep need in the community.
Yeah.
And I think with the Shoreline Commission, the Halls Road areas, there's plenty of other opportunities that are going to be coming forward to Old Lyme for smaller units, Hope type units, more like the old Saybrook Transit units and those kinds of things where they would be more like 1 or 2 bedroom type structures.
And both Hope and Habitat are interested.
They're Hope
in-
stuff, definitely interested.
I
in
will
that.
tell you, 8-30G, I could show you developments done under that would knock your socks off. You take one house out and put 12 or 16 units up on the same land. You can't stop it. So just know, if a developer comes in here and wants to do that kind of stuff, it's almost unstoppable. So it's nice to have a better model and showing an effort that we're trying to develop properties that meet the affordability criteria.
And along those lines, both Hope and Habitat were interested in the direction that we had set in our plan to do redevelopment. So whether that's distressed commercial housing or distressed single-family owner-occupied housing, so that's in both their wheelhouses. So there'll be more opportunities coming down the line. I think when you look at what needs to be done, in addition to some of the technical legalese details that need to be done with the grant and exercising the option, the interface with a potential developer, whether it's Habitat or some other, how does if the land is transferred to a third party, how do we interface with them through a steering committee? The big one is going to be community engagement, and again, I think that's where our commission is going to have a major role in communicating and bringing the community in and working with whoever the developer is to assist them in.
So once the developer is selected, however that's done, that developer will purchase the land and give the city the money.
Yep.
And that land will be purchased considerably under market for 3 acres in Old Lyme or almost anywhere in the state. So that's directly a subsidy right there. That's what allows them to move forward and make this affordable and keep it between 30 and 60. So, I think some of those things just have to be discussed and the community will understand.
Which is back to the original transaction in 2019. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, but these points that are being made about the public's reaction to it, they're visceral. Don't ever, I agree, I've seen this. I never underestimate irrational behavior, including people's conclusions on rumors. I've been in that business for a quarter century, and believe me, I've never been shocked. It said, really? So you never take it lightly. I think the comments, we just have to figure out a way to do it or put certain words in there and negotiate it.
And where there is shade, shine light.
That's right. It'll all be good. Yeah. As long as you've got patience and you do it right, it'll work. Yeah. That's great.
Okay, so next steps on that then basically is the
getting the legal and grant opinions are
we need to get
kind of
those two
gatekeepers.
legal
We need
things, yeah.
those relatively quickly, having a second round of discussions with Habitat, see if there's anyone else interested. The steering what would a steering committee look like? Tim talked about that. Tim was on board in concept with that. That needs to be fleshed out. So there's a lot of open questions that we're going to need. We're not going to only have the opportunity to weigh in on and influence, but that we're going to need to. And then I think the one that's really going to be in our wheelhouse is the community engagement plan.
Is their lawyer, Sussman Shapiro, going to do the legal
On the grant
opinion
exercise, yeah.
on all that?
Yep.
Okay.
And I talked to Tim about that earlier this week. He's going to reach out. Was it earlier this week? Can't remember.
Maybe Friday.
We're together.
Can I ask one question? It goes back in time. Jen said that Habitat has this huge portfolio going right up eastern Connecticut. Like we got all these lands developed. And then Habitat suggesting, starts community engagement, it's like full steam ahead. Did they represent in your conversations with you, two of you, that this is a high priority development if it worked out for them? I mean, so they're going to come in Old Lyme and do it as opposed to go to Willimantic.
Right.
Okay. So I couldn't reconcile there. Got all this land to develop. I thought we were in the pecking order. We'd be like number 50.
Yeah, no, I meant right in the sense that I understand your question.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I think you're mentioned a logistical aspect to that.
Yeah.
Like they have slots.
Yeah.
And they have some coming up. That
Their construction calendar, has to kind of align with the stars, but so that the multifamily homes that they're working on up in the Norwich area are waiting for the town of Norwich to do certain other things with their ARPA funds,
Gotcha.
like clearing houses off of properties. They're all foreclosed homes, so clearing things off and whatever. And so in the meantime, the site work and all that needs to start. But it would that's where the is that we would need a large group of people, to be actively participating in the development of the homes. So it would be, generally we do 8 people a day, 3 days a week, and then the regular framers and construction crew, all the licensed professionals, do their work on the other days. But the volunteers come in 3 days a week and work on the home. So if we have a steady flow of volunteers, which I think as Bill knows from the church there, that it goes a lot faster.
So we won't get everyone revved up for this, and then the development not happen for 18 months.
No. And to your question, my sense is, and checking again on this, it's at least as much driven by logistical expediency as it is by strategic priority.
Got it. Okay, I see. So so if we get a lot of volunteers, we show up with hammers and saws.
And they got a building.
Got a building. Go. Let's go.
Yeah,
Okay, I got it.
you don't start getting the people to actually do that till you say, okay, this Saturday we need that Saturday.
Yeah, because like the concrete people, right? So if you need concrete people, if you need electricians, if you need plumbers, the more that we can get them from the community, the better off
they
we
go
are.
and donate time or do it.
I know it said that the community engagement needs to happen quickly, but can it happen? Don't we need more information?
Oh, definitely.
Right. I mean, so it may be it's before we break ground, but it's going to be. But we do need to know.
And what we can think about is what are the pieces? What should we start thinking about, and then position ourselves to implement.
To be clear, the
time.
Board of Habitat has not approved this.
Oh no, this is not a forum.
This is one discussion for 1 hour, one day. So nothing has been approved on either side yet.
So remaining things are our lawyer will have to check into the process.
And that's not specific to any particular developer. This is what does the letter of the contract lay out as you need to execute these steps in order to exercise this option.
Okay, so that has to happen. Our questions at least answered, and then really it's our recommendation, or is it the selectmen's? It's the selectmen's decision, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think feel free to influence that.
But okay. And then it's we don't think we have to have an open bidding or anything like a proposal request for proposal. So we would be able to move fairly expeditious. Okay.
Yeah, and then certainly any other entities that are open to proposing on it, like you had mentioned a couple, maybe from the MOA stuff that maybe they would be interested. We could still entertain.
It is a hard box to find to do up to
two houses, versus
you have to have that
200,
model and be comfortable because it's and that's why they use communities because they're able to keep their costs down. So they have tools and expertise to make that all happen.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
So this should be active over the coming weeks. I don't want to lose. We talked a lot about the McCullough Properties and Habitat, which is good and appropriate for us to focus on that. But I don't want to lose sight that it looks like we could have a potentially really good partner in the Hope Partnership as well for another big segment of our plan.
When we find
it's just going to be a little longer term, but we've got the Shoreline Gateway Committee going right now that's looking at redevelopment and an overlay zone along the shoreline. There's a lot of potential opportunities down there that have been laying fallow for many years that they would be interested in and are active in that area. So, not geographical area, but those kinds of projects. I didn't want to lose sight of that. And it was nice to see two new energetic executive directors in these two organizations that are really, really tuned in.
And then also we have the Halls Road or the historic overlay development thing going on as well.
There as well. All right. Let me close this by just saying that if you have specific questions that you want to be sort of entered into the discussion, please forward those to me. I'll collate, compile them, and roll them back to you.
Okay.
Send them by email. Okay. Let's go on to agenda item 5. The Affordable Housing Plan implementation work streams. So as I put in my email, it's become pretty clear over the last several months that we're all stretched, we're all volunteers, we have busy lives outside of the commission, and it's been challenging to get us focused on the things that we need to do and get those things prioritized and tracked and brought back to the commission so that they're decisionable and they're on a list and just being worked through. I know I don't have the bandwidth to sort of coordinate all of the various aspects of the affordable housing plan. I don't think any of us do at this point. So what I sent out was, having looked at the plan, both from a strategy standpoint and from an implementation standpoint, it broke down into 4 general areas that pretty much covered all of the areas that we were focusing on for strategy and all of the areas that we were focusing on for implementation. And those were community engagement, policy and regulatory, funding and partnering, and development opportunities. So what that does is cover most of the two overarching areas for that are sort of creating the environment that's more conducive to affordable housing, and then looking for opportunities. What those 4 areas don't cover are specific projects. So we still need to deal with those. But in terms of having a sort of a low maintenance standing agenda where we had teams working on specific areas of the plan that would have the primary but not sole responsibility for looking after that area of the plan, and then coming to our monthly meetings and reporting out on what was new, what was old, what was suggested as action items, and potentially suggesting that we engage the community to bring in or consultants or third parties or other expertise to help us with those things. And it nicely, those 4 areas, we have 8 people, so it allowed for pairs of us to take those on, which gave some redundancy within each of those. So in looking back over what our affinities are and what our expertise is and what our interests are, I came up with that relatively simple breakdown of work streams and some responsibilities. They're essentially a lift from all of the discussions we've had in the affordable housing plan and pairs of leads for each of those areas. So the first one, so the general responsibilities would be to track an area of the plan for new information and opportunities, to do at least the initial research and case studies and analysis to help inform our plans and our recommendations and bring those to the commission along with suggestions for projects and activities. Bring those before the commission to process those as a group so that we got the collective brain engaged on them. And then for larger efforts, actually spin off projects and potentially form subcommittees and use that as a platform to bring in extended resources beyond ourselves, whether that be the members of the community or consultants, or folks like Hope and Habitat or RiverCog, other government entities. So community engagement would be looking at our informational and progress updates, like we just went through, trying to get a postcard or a newsletter out. Some of the surveys we had talked about, we've done in the past, and we want to do in the future. Karen, you had brought to us the CHFA mortgage promotion opportunity that would fall in that. We had talked about having a resource directory. I'll preempt the correspondence section. Got another email for someone out in the state that was just looking for affordable housing. I kind of have a template of contacts and what the opportunities are. I tell them we're not an affordable housing authority. We're more of a planning body. But these are, and I just have a list of contacts I can give them. And they always say thanks. But I think we had talked about having on our webpage, once we're able to update it again, to have maybe someplace we could point people for resources, volunteer opportunities, and I put the website in there. Policy and regulatory, we have an active initiative in ADU regulations. There's more to come on that. I think our zoning codes, as I read them, there's areas where affordable housing incentives and requirements pop up in there. And we need to have a full review of those. Incentives have come up. I think the kind of case study we did as part of our plan on what other towns are doing for incentives more systematically would be beneficial to informing our thoughts and recommendations on incentives. Tracking the planning and zoning and the upcoming legislative sessions for what's going on there, just to see what other areas of either town or state or federal government that impinge on affordable housing are thinking and doing and regulating that affect us either from how we think or things that we have to do if there are compliance aspects. Funding and partnering, picking up on some of the great conversations you brought to light, Anthony and Jen, getting a developer list together. We had talked about a developer survey to see what it would take to generate more interest on the part of developers in Old Lyme. Tracking grant opportunities that are out there, so funding and partnering. And then development opportunities. Jen, you had compiled the list of town-owned properties. There are the tax lists and the public lists of potential properties that are out there, and just keeping an ear to the ground with it, and whether that's through real estate channels or state channels or formally published, but coming up with opportunities for actual new development or adaptive reuse projects is the fourth area.
Would that also include kind of looking at, like, say something like the Shoreline Gateway
Yes.
Commission and saying, like,
coming out of it.
Yep.
learning about what they're thinking about, what they're talking about?
Absolutely.
Adding some knowledge to them, educating them on
I'm currently sitting on that committee.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay.
But would welcome the opportunity to swap somebody in for it. I'm sure Martha and Matt, who are co-chairing it, would be open to that. But yes, Holes Road, same thing.
Okay.
So the leads, and if we could just go with this for a couple of months and see how it works starting next month, just having these areas on the standing agenda. And Bill and Karen, you guys have shown yourselves to be pretty tuned in. Myself and Amy has a PhD in planning, so she's got much better chops than I do. I'm self-taught in this area. Looking at the policy and regulatory, Jen and Anthony have worked active in for funding and partnering and development opportunities. Lori's, of course, in the real estate business, and John, you used to be pretty dialed in on this. So if we could for next month, at least give this a try so that we have these 4 items on the agenda every month. And we come in and have new items, old items, and some discussion on what opportunities and new information might be on this. I think it would help divide and conquer the agenda, help keep our eyes on the implementation of our affordable housing plan, and also try and get us a little bit more self-organized rather than have some master list of action items that have various people associated with them and plan that. So I'll stop talking now and open this up.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea that obviously you do a lot of the heavy lifting, and so I think this would be a good way to split it up. And then also, assuming you would still be sort of, even on policy and regulatory, you'd still be the sort of funnel into the selectmen as far as the tax abatement and things like that.
Yeah.
And kind of those kind of policy issues, right? Yeah. Okay.
Advice.
You.
I think this makes sense. So, but what basically this would entail is, rather than for a single project, like, for example, Karen and I worked together when we were doing a little research into what other towns had done, and we found the information that we could indeed use the funds, which we thought we couldn't.
Which was a game changer.
Yeah, but so we would have some tasks that either came out of our meeting together or were along these lines. We would have it would be like a committee structure, basically, where there would be some communication outside of the regular meeting, and then something, therefore, to report on when is that what you're envisioning?
Yeah. Yep. And
so like each of these
we have some redundancy.
Right.
So
each of these would be on the agenda.
On the agenda every month. And so the notion would be...
There may not be a report every month.
No,
right,
not necessarily, but if you keep your ear to the ground, if you have new information to bring in, if we've identified an action item that was going, you can track that through. If there was something we needed to know, a recommendation. So,
sounds good.
Again, I'll use the example Karen brought in of the Chapel Mortgage promotion.
I like the idea. I think it'll work. Let's give it a try.
And see if we can self-organize and help us just focus and not put ourselves in the position where we have something we need to do and we're kind of scrambling to figure out how we do it every time.
Well, you have areas that you could assign a person or persons to go look at something and come back 30 days later with a report.
And it doesn't mean they have to do everything, but just kind of track that area and
right.
Bring the information in so the full commission.
So it really works two ways, because one is bringing information in if you're working on something, and the other is, hey, we need to get it's come to light that we need to do X, Y, or Z, and that falls in this area, so that it would be could be reporting in, but it could be coming out of discussion on that topic.
Right. Or if we're looking at the legislative session and we see there's pending legislation for another piece of work like Public Act 2129 is that are going to affect local zoning, we bring that in and accessory dwelling units, we bring that in and
sounds good.
See if we want or need to come up with a response or if there's a new compliance thing that comes up. One of the first things we discovered on the old committee was this 830J thing. We've been on the hook for a 5-year plan that's due in 22.
TJ,
so,
what?
No deal. So.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. So if you're all game, let's give that a try. I'll structure the December agenda accordingly. Thoughts, discussion, good?
No, I think it's good.
December's my last meeting. My commission's up.
January 31st, I think, so January 2.
Okay, right, 2 more meetings, okay.
You're stuck.
Who's counting?
You got an early Christmas present. You get an extra meeting.
I wasn't sure if it was like the state, January, when you're done.
No, in this one, right.
The first.
No, January 31st.
good point.
Although, you know, I probably
Good
shouldn't,
point, actually.
probably shouldn't stake the ranch on that based on.
Oh, January 1st. But, are you up for, can you be reappointed?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I haven't actually crossed that boundary yet, so I don't know exactly what happens, but I'm pretty sure there'll be some communication from Town Hall on that. As you approach an appointment.
Maybe not
Usually
since
they
Michelle's
track
not
it.
here, I'm not sure.
Do they track it?
Well, actually.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole,
Michelle,
Did we have to, like Michelle?
she's gone.
no, they got a piece of software now actually that's doing it, so that instead of it being like on an ad hoc spreadsheet
Oh, really?
and posted,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they got
Great,
a
that's cool.
real live piece of software.
Would it have been,
They have a real non-human.
this was new, so everybody,
No, when they form a new commission, part of my
Yeah.
education was, so there were 8 of it, they're staggered. So,
because
John and
Michelle
I,
called me this year to ask if I wanted to serve, so maybe I only had a 1 year.
you started as an alternate. And then,
True.
And then you came on as a full member in a 1-year slot. When we had the resignation.
Oh, but there was a resignation before we ever met.
There was a resignation before we met.
Correct. That's what
And
it
then
was.
you-
And that was a 1-year
From an
position,
alternate.
that person.
So you assumed a 1-year
Okay.
slot.
So that's why I was, okay.
And you were,
That's why
okay,
I
so
was-
you have actually crossed the Rubicon
I
there,
did
and you were
cross the
contacted.
Rubicon,
Okay.
but, right.
So yeah, I expect there.
Successfully, perhaps. Okay,
So-
that's why I was confused by that. Okay.
So it's Jen and I that are up in January. Oh,
Yeah.
and Anthony. Oh, and it's through 131.
131? Okay.
I think I'm 23. I don't know when I come up.
You're January, you're coming up on.
January.
January.
Yeah, 23rd.
Because that slot had been open for a while when you were appointed.
Yeah, I know.
To it. So they don't reset the time when you come into to a vacancy.
You assume the vacancy.
You assume the vacancy for the duration of its.
So they'll contact us and ask if we want to continue to serve.
Yeah, although, keep me posted on this, because without Michelle here,
Yeah.
There may be no one contacting anyone.
No,
I
yeah.
want to go more active on this than I normally would, and make sure that,
So there's a couple of us that are coming up in January.
Yep,
Carrie,
3.
myself.
And Jen.
Jen.
Jen too. Okay. Wow.
We should get all of our work done next month.
I know. We got a lot of work.
A lot of work to do, a short time to do it.
We've done it'll take 8 days to get it done in this minute.
Ba-dum-bum.
Okay. Let's go on to item 6. If there's no more on these work streams, we'll just give it a go. So, also an administrative item, we've got an fiscal year 23-24 budget request is coming up. So they're just starting to open up the discussion, very early discussions about budget requests. Now, we got assigned kind of a standard budget when the commission got off the ground that included some funding for clerks, some funding for any legal fees, and some funding for printing and mailing and publication. And then that kind of got upended when we got the $15,000, not upended, but significantly augmented. We had about $3,000 in the budget, and then we got the $15,000 planning grant, technical support grant, which was the bulk of our budget going forward. So now that's expired, and we're going to go back to a budget request to the town that would take effect on July 1st, 2023.
Can we request funds like open space does?
Yes. So, and because, at least for right now, we don't have sort of a central organizing theme like the plan that was due and a grant to fund it, I think we need to be a bit more thoughtful about what we're going to be doing and what we're going to need from the town. I think when you look at the general categories we've had in the past, in terms of having a clerk, I don't think so. Record our meetings, and they're posted. I do the minutes. It doesn't take me a long time to do the minutes. So, and also clerks are very scarce and tough to get, and the more adjudicative commissions like planning and zoning do get clerks because they have legal proceedings going on in those. So,
Do we have a formal budget I mean, the line items?
Yes.
We do. So even if you don't need a clerk, you can keep it in the budget, just put a 0. You want a placeholder.
Yeah, we could have a placeholder.
You know,
At some point we could.
unless you're going to be here taking minutes in perpetuity.
Certainly not perpetuity, but at least through January 31st.
Got a long way to go.
No, you go another full year. Yours is enough, right?
Yeah, I think John and I are at the 3 years.
3 years.
So those will be coming up in
24.
24. So, we don't have to nail this down now, but
We need to be
I
thinking.
don't think we're going to need a clerk, although to your point, Anthony, leaving a placeholder
Yeah,
there,
just leave a placeholder.
or even a nominal item, just so if we need one first. There may be times, although we're recording, even for the public meetings we did, we had video recording, so that's really an enabler, having the recordings.
Can you, I mean, there are a few items or one item in the budget right now?
Yeah. Oh,
No. What I was going to say is, could you send us
I'll send it out.
the few, I'm saying few items, maybe it's 2 or 4, but whatever they are, just as a beginning place for us to think, and then what else do we think?
Right, and this goes back to the work stream, so we can start thinking about them in the context of these work streams. So for community engagement, we may want some printing and mailing.
Need those postcards go.
Right, and now, thanks to Anthony's work, we know about what it's going to cost
Turnkey will be.
print and mail a postcard, which is about, was it $2,500 or
Yeah, transport $2,500.
Yeah, that's around what I figured it was.
Okay, so we might want to put in the budget $5,000 or $6,000. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, so we can do 2 of those, maybe. Okay, we've got some projects coming up. So we want to think about what are we going to be doing, what might our communication needs going to be doing, and try to draw that back into the budget items. We're going to be doing some projects. We've already turned up some areas that we're going to want to engage a lawyer to have a look at. So we might want to put some money aside to get legal opinions. Now, some of that's going to overlap with other commissions and with the Board of Selectmen, but we might want to have some discretion to engage legal resources to help us think through some of the items we're going to encounter.
Council.
Hourly.
Hourly.
We need to develop a kitty, don't we, so that if the parcel of land comes up, we have it?
Shapiro,
Yeah,
New London,
we
and
we can talk about having so that's basically,
yeah.
so if you look at the open spaces analogy, there's an open space acquisition fund that gets fed in.
Yeah, we need that.
So
Do it hourly with them too.
we're going to need to have a discussion about where that would sit, because if you look at our charter as a commission, so I agree with you, it needs to exist. So where and how it exists, because our commission is more of planning and recommendation. So I'm not sure if we need to have that in. So whether it's under us or under the town, or whether we're sort of the placeholder for it, but yes.
I mean, but if we're going to buy land and sell it to Habitat, that doesn't work really.
Right, so
The Board of Ed, but
I'll put it, but to your point, let's put something in, and it will at least trigger discussion.
town.
So we'll put it in for, $1 million,
No.
definitely get a
I
call.
mean, $100,000 every year.
Right,
Just when we need them.
right,
Okay. No, I wasn't laughing at that. So.
And even if they shot us down to 50, okay.
yeah.
Well, unlike open space, where it's not getting reimbursed, right? It's getting spent to add to open space or
Correct.
improve. This would all get reimbursed
And
technically,
sold it,
right?
which is,
Yeah. Open space actually buys land
Well-
too, for the town.
right. But
So
we
they-
can still buy land, and maybe our current administration or selectman doesn't necessarily agree with the fact that we should own it, but perhaps the next one coming in would.
Although, again, I think we should put that, and I think it should trigger a discussion about our charter and what we do.
Yeah. That's
So,
a fair point.
But it would be, I can't think of a better way to generate a discussion than to ask for money.
That would be an interesting discussion, I mean, usually open spaces are developed land, no improvements.
And, along that topic too, I don't think the same quantity, but if we're going to be looking to regional partners for help, the town gives money to the library, to others. So if we're going to be working with Hope and Habitat, we may want to put in a stipend for them too, to help them out if they're going to be supporting us and working with us.
Yeah, I think Hope, $500 last year.
Yeah, I think there's currently
Yeah.
Hope is on the town books. And again, I don't know where that would appear, whether it would be on the affordable housing budget or not, but it's open season on the budget, so we can suggest things for the town budget too.
So Hope, what were you trying to say?
Hope gets like $500 a year.
That's $500 a year. Per
Donation.
As a
donation.
Oh.
Yep.
Because they serve the community. I don't know if Habitat does or not. 500 is not going to go far. They don't.
Not from Old Lyme, lots of other towns.
And where's Hope?
But those are the kinds of things. Oh, also, just little details like our WebEx subscription, so we can keep doing video meetings if we want to, or having a virtual public meeting,
Spencer's Corner.
Yeah.
which is small potatoes. But any administrative items, legal fees, printing fees,
They made a big deal.
and then some of the bigger ticket stuff. So I'll put this back on the agenda for December, but just something to think about as we go forward. And yes, I will send out last year's budget. And we're still going to want to look for grants too, talking about our budget.
Yeah.
And I think if we get into any really big projects, we're going to be looking for grants.
Yeah.
Help it. And we'll know just where to look, thanks to
Tony.
Jen and Anthony.
Well, I'm going to file something pretty quick, that idea.
But
But the state, seriously,
Two interesting projects in the papers today, in the day. One in Waterford, one now in Stonington.
Yeah, the one in Stonington, I saw that.
That's a redo of what was proposed earlier, and but the one in Waterford was interesting because they're going for, even though they will have the 30% for affordable housing, said by nature these are going to be almost in the affordable range because they're like 1,200 square feet units, and so anyway, it was interesting.
So continuing the theme of looking forward into 23, upcoming meetings and agendas. So we're going to get asked to get on the calendar again for next year. In December, we need to put in we need to post our 2023 meeting schedule.
Okay.
So if the third Wednesday at 5 p.m. Needs to change, now's the time. If we're generally comfortable with keeping that, the momentum will carry us, and we'll likely, we have first dibs on this venue on the third Wednesday at 5 p.m. But I'm completely open to any suggestions or needs to change it to accommodate our schedules.
Yeah, it works for me. Just can't do the first Wednesday.
Right.
Okay.
Third Wednesday. John, you going to stay with third Wednesdays? I don't think I remuted anybody. Stop. John, you still there? Okay, probably not. Okay, third Wednesday it is. I will submit that when it's requested. I'll actually submit it even if it's not requested, given what's happening with administrative help there. Okay, item 8, correspondence. Just had the one contact through our contact page where people can just email Dear Affordable Housing, and that was just for a request for information about availability of affordable housing in town from someone in Middletown. And I sent out the list of Rocky Neck, Lofts, the two senior. It wasn't clear whether it was senior or not, so I always sent out the senior housing, and also refer them to state webpage and 211. Any other correspondence too?
So the FOI request, how did that happen? I don't know. Why did they have to go through attorneys? It seems like such a waste of money.
If it comes in that channel, that's the channel you got to use. If it was a formal request. Yeah.
It seems like such an unnecessary expense.
Yeah.
They all are.
So when an email request came in about affordable housing, the lawyer responded.
No.
This is two separate things.
Oh.
Remember we got that email earlier in the...
Oh, yes.
FOIA, yeah.
Oh,
from
great,
the-
okay.
Was it the Examiner?
Connecticut Examiner, yeah. They asked me for the information, but
That's weird.
Yeah, it was for more than that. So anyway, I guess once it goes formal, that's the way you go.
Once they come to our meetings.
I think I have any specific closure on that. I'll just write that. I haven't heard anything since.
All the meetings are recorded, so they could come to any of them.
Okay, other business. Hearing none.
I think we should just make sure we follow up on that tax issue with all the Hope, Habitat, whatever.
In general, there's some research to do there because there are state level and local level procedures to implement that.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, I think this whole discussion with Hope is going to be a good trigger to figure that out. Now, I will take that on under the policy and regulatory work stream to say.
The issue is basically that we, Hope has to reapply every year for a tax abatement for the property, for the land that they own with those 3 houses on them. Whereas, could we just do a permanent tax thing so they don't have to go through, because the homeowners actually get the bills, and then they have to send them to Hope, and then Hope has to do something with them to fill out a form to give to the town.
Unnecessary, cumbersome process.
Yeah.
Oh, because Hope doesn't own the property.
Right.
Hope owns the property, yeah.
Got it.
The land.
Yeah.
So they get
That's
a,
really
been-
interesting. That's an interesting legal.
so
It's been surfaced now, so
Yeah, it's up there.
we'll figure it out. And this is,
we want to have like a model, so we don't have to go through it with.
Yeah, no.
my sense is it's a question that doesn't have a clear answer right now, but I don't see any reason why there couldn't be a clear answer for it. So we just have to do our homework, get
I get
the parties together and get it in black and white, and then
Particularly when the IRSs are, well, it would be just the city.
Judy took her.
It's
She's going to
property.
be calling you.
property, not it's not income tax, it's property tax.
I know. It's-
You don't want Judy Tooker calling you.
I always want to make sure I give her my check so she knows I paid.
That's right. Hand it to her first.
And I enjoy talking to her. I say hello.
She is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, so before I look for a motion to adjourn. Welcome back, Lori.
did you guys talk about CHFA, CHFA?
Only.
Not in detail, only
light of-
to say it's on the radar screen for next
Okay,
month.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thanks for the discussion, particularly about the McCulloch opportunity. Please do send me questions by email that you'd like to be included in the next round of discussions, and they will be surfaced, and we'll work forward. And there will certainly be an update on this at our December 13th meeting. Did I get that right?
Sounds right.
Just check quick. Nope, 14th. December 14th meeting. Close.
Because it's the second Wednesday of the month? Okay. December.
Yeah, I'll actually, before you came, we agreed to go continue on the third
Meeting
Wednesday of the month for our
Good.
2023 calendar. And thank you for bringing that up, because the third Wednesday of December in 2023 is December 20th. That's coming right up on Christmas weekend. So with your leave, I will also put in for the second Wednesday
Yes,
for
please.
December.
Of 2023.
2023, which will be December 13th. So same schedule as this year then, with 11 months of the third Wednesday and December being the second Wednesday.
Okay. How do we fit in Thanksgiving and,
Yeah, how does Thanksgiving look?
it's usually okay, 'cause this is an early one this year, 24.
November, the third Wednesday is the 15th, so we're good.
Yeah, so we're fine.
We're good.
Good question.
And then the other ones, when we actually go through this, I go through the calendar and look for holidays. Back when we were doing Mondays for the committee, and that was a nightmare because we had all those Monday holidays.
Monday holidays.
Yeah.
No Wednesday night football. Good there, you know. Women basketball don't play, UConn, they don't play on Wednesdays usually, so we're clear on the important stuff, right?
There you go.
Okay, good. So with that, actually, 6:45, closer to 6:30 than we make. That's good. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Karen?
I can't make it.
No,
Second?
I'll second.
Jen?
Yeah.
Discussion? In favor?
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? We are adjourned. It is 6:44.
6 what?
6:44.
You're a stickler.